What's up, George? Hoops for Harris, man.
Hey,
Yeah,
boys and
Thanks
girls,
for
and
bringing
everybody
this
else.
together. This is a
Welcome to
great
Hold the
event, great
Mic.
opportunity. Really
We are
appreciate
here
it.
with
it's
Hoops
the
for
first time I've ever
Harris.
done it, so let's have fun with it.
This
So,
is a digital telethon. You've never done a digital telethon. This is like old school PBS style.
It's one of those things today that I don't understand very well, but I have no idea how this works, but let's make it work and have some fun doing it.
We're going to have a great time today, everyone. My name is Brett Goldberg. I'm here with the Hall of Fame coach, George Karl, who helped bring this together. This is an incredible opportunity for social activism, political activism, and really lending some additional support from folks like George Karl, Spike Lee, Crystal Langhorne, Larry Drew II, Arne Duncan, a number of folks that we've got involved today to the cause of the Harris Waltz campaign. So we're going to have a great time doing this. We're going to have a number of interactions for those of you watching on YouTube in order to make this extra interesting, extra fun. We've got some giveaways, so maybe a ball signed from you, maybe a Knicks jersey signed from Spike Lee, the Knicks fan legend, and a couple other things going on. Real quick, what I would love to cut to is just the map to see who all is participating in this and where we've got folks from around the US or maybe even around the world. If you enter your city and your state, you're going to populate up and we're going to capture this data in order to see where we're getting some representation from. So I see, what do we got? We got Denver. Looks like we've got some North Carolina representation there. I see some Georgia. I think that's Atlanta, maybe a little Tennessee, Nashville, certainly from LA, maybe a little bit of Seattle. And we're hoping we get some states, red, blue, purple. I think for a long time, and this goes back to, your experiences with Dean Smith. Talk about this for a second, but Dean Smith and others 50 years ago were recommending activism from basketball people. Talk about that.
Well, when I went to North Carolina in 1969, the first black mayor in the South was a guy by the name of Howard Lee. And Coach Smith endorsed him, walked with him, and he won. He became a mayor of a southern city in 1969. And his family was always a part of the basketball program. Coach Smith always believed in talking your voice and using your voice in a good way. He always believed in giving back. And he mentored me in many things, but he also mentored me in the stand up and say what you believe if you believe it strongly. And I think today we have a campaign that I know I'm worried about, and I think it's almost a must that we stand up here and make sure we win this election. I think it's that important in this country today, and for many reasons, policy, but more than anything, leadership. Trump is not a team guy, and I think Harris and Walz have come together, and we feel like we're a team all of a sudden, and it's energizing, it's positive, and they're looking to get better and move to the future. As a basketball coach, getting better was always a part of what you had to do. If you don't get better, you lose. And I think the Democrats did a great job of changing the scenario with Biden to Harris. And now we got about 60 days to go to make this a big win for the Democratic Party.
60 days. One of the things we're going to be doing is asking some poll questions and some trivia questions during this to make this interactive and fun. And again, you're going to use YouTube chat in order to communicate, answer poll questions, answer trivia questions. Let's start with this one. How would you describe right now your level of enthusiasm for the Harris Waltz campaign? We're going to pull that poll up, and we'd love to see what your answers are. 1 is very excited, 2 is excited, 3 is somewhat excited. Maybe we can change the feelings you guys have about that a little bit during the course of this conversation. I think the thing that we're really excited about today as well is just getting some interaction from some people, understanding where you guys are all coming from in terms of what's motivating, what's got you amped about this, what's the opportunity going forward from this, and hearing that from Spike and Crystal and Lindsey Harding and some of the other folks that are going to be involved as well. So, what we're going to do now is, without further ado, I'm going to turn it over to the guys that are going to be hosting the majority of the conversations. That's Mike Drew and Alonzo Bowden. Those two guys are going to basically take us through as MCs this conversation, help facilitate the conversation, and really stimulate the conversation a little bit. And whether it's during the first part of this or whether it's during subsequent times, there are donation buttons that you should be hitting. Our donations, guys, you're going to do this. You're going to throw that donation button out. You're going to make people hit it, and they get 5 levels of donation. $10 is a layup, $25 is a jumper, $50 is a slam dunk, $100 is a Curry 3-pointer, a splash Steph Curry 3-pointer. He's going to cook some 3-pointers up. And if you over 250, that's a buzzer beater. That's a game winner. And so we'll remember that, and we'll hopefully get some good money raised for the Harris Waltz campaign as a result of this as well. Alonzo Bowden, Mike Weiser, great to have you guys here. Thanks so much for your participation and your support of everything going on. Kick this off a little bit for us and tell us what your thoughts are.
Well,
thank you, Brad. Go ahead, Alonzo.
I just wanted to say thank you for having me. You can put me at number 1. Super excited about the campaign. Super excited to be here. And I think the Democratic convention confirmed the positivity that a lot of people had. I think there were a lot of people who were happy, but they were wondering, am I the only one? And then you watch a Democratic convention, which I simply describe as the greatest party that you've never been invited to. I mean, anytime, you're kicking off with Patti LaBelle and you got Sheila E. And anytime you have Stevie Wonder and Lil Wayne at the same party, you got you a hell of a party. And that part of it, the enjoyment and the excitement, when you look at the other side, when you look at the MAGA side, they're angry people. I'm a comedian. People ask me all the time, do MAGA people get mad when you do a show? I'm like, no, they don't come to comedy shows. They're angry. So I think a lot of America just enjoyed the fact that here we have some positivity, we have some excitement, we have a message, and we have something we can get behind. And Tim Walz, I mean, what a pick. That has to be the most relatable guy in America, right? He's coach, he's dad, he's whoever you want him to be. I read a post about him that I loved. They said if Tim Walz walks in wiping his hands on a rag because he just fixed the transmission on the campaign bus, you win all 50 states. Everyone here would believe that Tim Walz fixed the transmission on the bus. Why wouldn't he? He's that guy. I think there's a lot of excitement about that.
I'm with you. I'm with you, Alonzo. I feel like, and it goes down to as simple as this. When I saw the Vice President, Kamala Harris, say something to the fact of, you want someone in this country that lifts you up, not tears you down. That to me, like there was a positive message, and that whole not going back stuff, I believe in that. I really believe in that. And what does that mean? It means values. It means what your convictions are about in this country. And look, I'm working on this book right now on Billy Mills, who a lot of you guys haven't heard of. He's the 1964 Tokyo gold medalist at 10,000 meters. He was the last Native American to win a gold medal. He's still alive. His whole thing is do something for the next 7 generations, not just the next generation, the next 7 generations. I feel like this election, you could say this is about your children's children's children. And I think a lot of people feel the same way. I don't think they want to see us all night, Alonzo. I think we should get to somebody that people will want to hear even more so than us.
Well, then let's do that, and I'm gonna kick off this first conversation. The way that we're going to structure this tonight is going to be through sort of roundtable conversations, and in each of the roundtable conversations, we're going to have a little bit of a theme. Obviously, we want our great distinguished speakers to talk about really whatever the hell they want to talk about, but we'll give them a little bit of structure to work within. We want them to talk for a couple of minutes each about things that are important and passionate to them, and then Alonzo and Mike, you guys are going to kind of help facilitate the conversation and maybe ask them some follow-ups. This first conversation, oh my goodness, like this is just killer. Individually and then potentially as a collective group. We're calling this change makers, and we've got at least a couple of folks joining, and we'll confirm if all 3 are joining. I'll need to verify that in just a second here. But first of all, we are so honored to have Spike Lee, the Spike Lee, joining us from New York in all his glory, talking about the campaign, talking about hoops. He's probably going to talk about the Knicks a little bit as well. We've also got Mark Cuban, the Mavs Mark Cuban, the great Mark Cuban from Pittsburgh, an ABA guy as well. Spike, I don't know if you knew that, but he grew up watching Connie Hawkins and others in Pittsburgh when there was like 20 people going to the Pittsburgh Pipers games back in the late 60s. We've got Mark Cuban, we've got Spike Lee, and then hopefully joining us from China, we have Rex Chapman joining us as well. So without further ado, let's kick it off that way. Spike, I see you right now. It's amazing to have you with us. What do you have to say about the Harris Waltz campaign? What do you have to say about America today?
Well, we have to make a choice. We want to go forward or backwards. When I was at NYU Graduate Film School, I saw this film called Night of the Hunter with the great Robert Mitchum. And in that film, Robert Mitchum has hate and love tattooed on his hands. And I use that for Do the Right Thing with Ray Rahim. We have to make a choice. It's simple. We want to love or hate. It's that simple. This other guy, I didn't even say his name, he's full of hate. And my sister is full of love. It's a very, very simple choice. Love or hate.
Let's go to Mark Cuban. Mark, how are you, man? Thanks for joining us. Really appreciate you being here. What's going on?
What's up, guys? You hear me okay?
Yeah, we can hear you great.
Perfect. Yep. So I'm going to take a little bit different stance than some of the others, right? I'm the business guy, and I'm getting a reverb here. And I'm talking to our team a lot. And so I want to give you guys some pieces of information that a little bit uncertain for those of you who are trying to look at things from a business standpoint. First of all, Kamala she knows the deal, right? She knows what's up. She is open-minded. She is not an ideologue, right? She is not walking in the door saying, this is what I think about everything. This is the only way it's going to be. And she has her own values, which you hear her talk a lot. She has her own goals and her own mission. And honestly, between us, it doesn't always match up with Joe Biden. She is not Joe Biden. And I think what's really interesting to me is that her team now really appears to have learned from what worked for Donald Trump, right? She's not doing it the old Democrats way. She's not doing it the old 2010 way. She's doing it the 2024 way, right? She's digging in and she's saying, doesn't matter the way we did things before. What's the best way for America in 2024? And she's asking the question, how can I get there so that it's good for working people, it's good for people who aren't working, and it's good for business too, right? They don't bring me, they have Spike, and Spike knows them. They have you guys to talk to her about what's happening in America. Spaziki knows all those things, right? But, I'm the business guy. They bring me in for that Shark Tank shit. And so the cool part is she listens, right? When she's talking about, taxing unearned income, that stuff's not going to happen. When she's talking about taxing capital gains as regular income, that's not going to happen. And then what they've asked me and some other folks I know, they're like, look, you've been blessed, right? You've had things that I never, growing up in Pittsburgh, going to ABA games for my favorite player, John Brisker. Thank you very much. Coach, I know you know exactly who that is, and none of us will know whatever happened. But the important point here is that when we're going in there and we're talking about how can we do things for this country, she's asking folks like me, Mark, you got to give your fair share. What's the best way to do it? She's not just saying, this is the way I think it has to be. And so, things like capital gains, she came out not at 39% today, she came out at 28%. Corporate income, 28%, not as high as it was under Obama, right? So she's finding ways to increase how business people can invest in other businesses. We had long talks with her team about supporting entrepreneurs and supporting startups. And what does she do? She raises the deductions for startups to $50,000. And you know why? You know what they say when they were talking to me? Like, Mark, this isn't going to change a million startups, but if we can have that one kid coming from Indiana University, from Mount Lebanon or Squirrel Hill or from
Morehouse,
Howard
Morehouse.
University, wherever, right? And coming out and creating that one business that changes the world because we were thinking about ways to get them started. That's a big step forward. Honestly, if you go back and look at the guys she's competing against, Biden before, Obama before him, nobody has been as pro-business, particularly pro-entrepreneur, pro-startup, and pro-founder as the vice president, as Kamala Harris. I've been so pleasantly surprised. I'm one of those guys that just throws out idea after idea after idea, and her team is like, keep them coming, keep them coming, keep them coming, right? She's not here to put it to the business guy, right, or woman. She's not here to say, okay, you're rich, we're taking all we can from you. She's doing it the right way. And I don't mean trickle down, right? Lowest taxes possible, so it all trickles down. She thinks more in trickle up, right? When we were talking about what's a good capital gains tax, and we were talking about where should it be, I'm like, well, if you get it too high, it's hard to invest in risky companies. And the companies that have the greatest risk, for better or worse right now, are kids starting business that are people of color, LGBTQ, women. They have the hardest time getting investors because they're the riskiest investment. The higher the capital gains, the harder it is for them to get investment. What does she do? She sets them lower than everybody expected. I mean, that's just insane and amazing. And so when you're talking to, and the reason I say all this, for those of you that talk to other business people who may be supporting the other guy, and they're saying she's not pro-business, she's just trying to tax us into oblivion. All she wants to do is take more from us. It's the exact opposite. She's trying to create a system that's fair. That's her value, a system that's fair. And when it's fair, it also has to be able to allow investors to invest in people who can and help them reach the American dream. That's what it's all about. Because every time some kid has a dream and makes it, just like Spike went from, film school to us all knowing, Coach Karl went from, batshit Pittsburgh, to where he is today. We all have had this dream to go and make something happen. And she wants that dream to come true for as many people as possible, but not by saying the government's going to do it all. The government's there to help. The government has its role, but she wants business people to be part of the solution. She wants business people to feel respected, and she wants us to go out there and pay our fair share of taxes. And so for those of you who know me, if you have any ideas on a better way to do things, you just get it to me, right? Get it to Brett, get it to Coach Karl, and they'll get it to me, and I'll share it with her team. She is that wide open. And I've never been able to say this with any of the candidates I've worked with over the past 20 years. So I'll leave it at that. And the only thing I'll add is go Mavs.
Oh, wait a minute.
How you living? 10 toes in, Spike.
Yeah, when are the Knicks gonna be in? And what's the date?
I knew this was gonna happen.
I don't even know. You think I know that off the top of my head? No.
Well, we got to sit together. We do home and home.
Home and home. I got you, Spike.
I love you, man. Love you.
Always got you.
Okay. Listen, I hate to interrupt the Mavs-Knicks bet that I know is going to be going on between you two. But I have a question. I have a question that kind of it regards both of you in regards to Kamala Harris. So, Mark, you talked about the business side, and the business side is important, and the business appeals to a lot of people. And Spike, you talked about love, and I think emotion is very big when it comes to people voting. When people walk into that booth, how they feel can be more important than how they know. What do you think matters more? Now, Mark, when you say like there's no capital gains tax, for instance, most people don't understand that. They think, oh, this is just a rich loophole. And you say there's no capital gains, they instantly get angry rather than, researching or understanding it. So I'm asking both of you, what do you think matters more, the business, the facts, the numbers, or the emotion?
I think that everybody's different. And everybody has one thing that's their talking point. This is what I need. So I don't think it's like everybody comes into the booth with thinking the same thing. But I just feel when I'm around her, the vice president is she's a real person and she cares. She cares. This other guy only cares about himself. And he doesn't even try to hide it. He's not acting. He is that way. And she's gonna lead us into the future. We cannot go backwards. I mean, this guy said that if he wins the election, there's gonna be no more voting. He wasn't joking. He was serious. If he wins, we're not gonna no more voting. I'm not gonna curse, but WTF?
Oh, you can curse. It's just Zoom.
I'll curse for you, Spike. What the fuck is right?
My brother Mark, what's up,
But
baby?
Lonzo, I agree with you, right? I wanted to get the business stuff out there because there's a lot of confusion. And so when any of us talk to other business people and they ask the question, where does she stand? Now you know, right? But when it comes to what's going to win the election, it's about trust. This election, in my mind, is completely about trust. Who do you trust to do the right thing? The person who called the governor of Georgia and asked for 11,000 votes? The person who was okay with hang Mike Pence and
What
asked
about
him
January
to
6th?
certify the election?
January
Or the
6th.
person who has given her entire life to service, the person who will sit down and talk and care and connect with anybody. There's just no comparison. And I think that's what's really changed. I think you can trust Kamala. I think people do trust Kamala. And I think that's why we have the momentum that we do.
So what I wanted to ask was, and both of you guys I've known for a long time in my MBA writing career, and one of the reasons I've liked you more down to earth than most people of your wealth and income and stature. Mark, you went out and literally paid for trying to get Delonte West, who was homeless, obviously mentally ill for a long time. These are some of the progressive issues that you got involved with, irrespective of whether you had money or not. You were going to do it. Spike, I know you're in the same boat where there is something about helping out the little guy that means something to both of you. I feel like the vice president is the same way in many ways. I just do.
She's obviously very human, and like you said, Spike, she exudes that. It comes across. It's really funny to me that one of the things the Republicans hate about her is that she laughs. I mean, imagine that you have a sense of humor, and she has a big, joyful laugh, and they're like, no, you shouldn't be laughing. What's wrong with you? Having a good time and making people feel good. It's really an insane, what a thing to try to attack her on, right? So I fully agree with you, Spike, that her personality and her love of people, it comes across. And it's great that it translates through her speeches and through her public appearances. I could only imagine what it would be like in the room with her.
No, you said it all. You said it all.
Mark, there was a chance you were going to run for office. Go ahead.
Mike, go ahead. Mike, go ahead, Mike.
Mark, there was a chance, somebody said you were going to run for office at one point. Was that just crazy, or did you actually think about that?
Who's that question to?
Mark.
Mark. Where'd you go, Mark?
Muted.
I think you're muted, Mark.
I bet he's giving a great answer right now.
This is tremendous. Hey. This is like one of the most tech savvy guys I know in the world, and he can't find his unmute button.
He's lost.
One would think he'd hire an assistant. Just throwing it out there.
Listen, Spike, you would never run for office, would you? No, you got too many things going on.
I couldn't be voted dog catcher.
Oh man.
I'm the unofficial mayor of Brooklyn. That's all I need. I don't need no official thing.
Spike, hey, Spike, we're going to bring this to a head in just a minute or two. And anything else you want to wrap with, though, before we do? Any other, comments building on Mark, or just your own sentiments you want to share?
I think this is so obvious.
Yeah.
Just look at the track record of this other guy. And I like to talk about this. January 6th. January 6th. People are dead because of that. Law enforcement, I forgot the numbers, some committed suicide behind that. He tried to overthrow the government of the United States of America. And I don't think we talk about that enough.
Do you think they would try it again if he loses? When he loses?
Oh, that wouldn't surprise me. I mean, and then let's not even talk about 2025. I think that thing he's trying to say has nothing to do with. He was one of the authors of it. So it is so obvious. Here's the thing, though. I always kid my class. In fact, tomorrow's my first day of class. I teach at NYU Graduate Film School. I'm a tenured professor, but teaching at 30 years. I always talk about the 3 S's. Shenanigans. Subterfuge. The last one's a killer. Skullduggery.
Shenanigans, skullduggery, and subterfuge.
No, subterfuge.
Subterfuge and skullduggery.
And the one is shenanigans, all of them. That's what this is.
It really is. And how often can skullduggery properly be used in a sentence? That's the beauty of it, that this is actually a situation where, yes, skullduggery is afoot.
Don't forget subterfuge and shenanigans. those three S's are deadly.
I love that.
Love that too. Hey, Spike, thank you so much for being with us. Stay on as long as you have time and as long as you're able. We're gonna get to Lenny Wilkens and a couple other greats here.
Oh, also, can you hear me?
Yeah, we can hear you.
Lenny, another great Brooklynite, boys and girls. Boys high. Lenny Wilkens. Brooklyn's in the house.
As someone from Queens, we really get tired of you Brooklyn boys. I just want you to know
Why
we're
you
tired.
hating? Why you hating? Why you hating?
Spike, thanks to you, and
we'll see the court side of the NBA Finals when the Knicks are playing the Mavericks, and we're very excited for your team.
Making.
Let's do a cut over to our first transition. We're going to have a couple of these to get some interaction going, get some giveaways going, and in order to do that, I want to throw it to Corey Jackson and Mr. Danny Ball. Danny's got a great Hoops for Harris image going on behind him. Corey, what's up? You guys are going to do a little bit of trivia action. You're going to do a couple giveaways, and then we'll get into our next conversation with Lenny Wilkens and Eddie Johnson and a few others.
Indeed. I don't think there's going to be much skullduggery or shenanigans going on with some of this trivia. The self-diffuse might happen if you start Googling some of these answers on the trivia, but we'll find out sooner or later.
Yeah, no Googling. And Mark, you might have to sit out answering this one, but we got 5 different answers there for this trivia question of what sports film from the 1970s included Mark Cuban as an extra.
Do you guys know these movies? Have you two, Corey and Danny, seen any of these? This is all stuff right here.
I've seen 4 or 5.
Are you serious?
Yeah.
I don't think I've seen the remakes of some of these.
Who was Corey? Who was the star of The Fish That Saved Pittsburgh?
The Rock.
Wait a minute. Stop right now. Stop right now. What?
Couldn't tell you.
Hey, I went to the filming of The Fish That Saved Pittsburgh.
There's Mark. There you are, Mark. Thank you. By the way, this is correct, right? You were in The Fish That Saved Pittsburgh, correct?
Yeah, just like maybe my pinky was in there, but I definitely went to see Dr. J.
Corey,
It's
that's
fu-
the answer to the question. Dr. J was the star of The Fish That Saved Pittsburgh, came out in November of 1979. Most people say, George, what do you think? But like maybe the best basketball movie ever made?
Not many of them have been very good, but that was good. That was watchable.
No, it was Hoop Dreams.
That's what Spike Lee says is his favorite movie is Hoop Dreams. That's correct. That's
Well, I
correct.
agree with Spike.
What about semi-pro?
not it,
Semi-pro. Hey,
And don't sleep
think-
on Like Mike 2. I was the coach in Like Mike 2. Classic.
I'm gonna go with He Got
game.
Game.
Yeah,
I'm just
He Got
saying. I'm
Game's
kissing
pretty
up
good.
right now. He Got Game is the best basketball movie ever made.
I'll follow suit, Alonzo.
I'm gonna hold my tongue on how.
Alonzo George was in that. He was in that with Ray and others.
Oh, it was a phenomenal movie. Jesus Shuttleworth is the greatest basketball player name I've ever heard.
That's
What about Baskerville Holmes? I love Baskerville Holmes.
Corey Jackson, what do we got for our first giveaway?
all the other great ones. So this is something I think I would love to enjoy myself. It is a Coach Karl ABA signed ball, basketball. So for those of y'all familiar with the ABA or the basketballs, the red, white, and blue ones, I'll tell you, after using them myself, they're pretty nice. Using
Bring the ball back.
D.
Mark, we need to talk about that, by the way. We need to see about getting some ABA balls going, maybe in the in-season tournament or something. We need to do that. Corey, we've got 3 of them to give away. So let's see who the 3 winners are of the ABA balls. You're going to email Corey@truthplusmedia.com if you're one of the 3 winners. Let's get the poll going if we can get it, or the spinner going.
I'm writing these names down. I don't want any spam emails.
This is the first one. Aiden Stein.
Aiden Stein.
Aiden Stein, you're the winner of a George Karl signed ABA ball. You need to email Corey, CORY, @truthplusmedia.com. Let's do the second spinner.
Hey guys, and I'm here with you. I'm just kind of letting you guys watch the show,
So
but
it's just like a beautiful rainbow.
Yeah, can we get some music here?
man, it was so good to have
It's amazing.
In Ashton.
Spike Lee and Mark Cuban on there.
Julian Ashton is our
Julian
second.
Ashton. And then the third one. on
Make sure
ABA
if you're
signed
able
ball.
to donate, in the upper right hand corner, there's a QR code. You can scan that. And I believe that will go into the tally
Ooh, that's a tough one.
for-
And C. Maybe we should do one more.
for their show.
I don't know
Or
what ANC is
to
gonna
be easy, you can just go to
Can we do one more spin,
kamalaharris.com
guys?
and donate there as well. I don't believe they'll get credit for that donation, but it'll, of course, it'll still make it to Kamala. So, but thank you all for tuning in, and just
Carolina Hoop Scoop.
just a friendly reminder that
that is
Ian and I
you.
will be here
If that is
Friday
you, email
for our.
Corey, CORY, @truthplusmedia.com. And you'll get a signed ABA ball by the Hall of Famer next to me, George Karl.
That's pretty cool that they're giving these away.
Thank you, Danny. Thank you, Corey. Let's go to our next
But yeah,
segment. We've got
Ian and I,
one
we will
giveaways
be
and
here
coming
for
up.
our
What do
normal
we call this
scheduled Hold the
section?
Mic Friday at 8 o'clock Eastern, 5 o'clock Pacific. So make sure that you guys join us. We'll be talking about everything going on.
Lenny Wilkens, who is, I believe, still right at this moment. This is going to change with Jerry West's enshrinement later this year in October. But the only 3-time enshrined Hall of Famer, Lenny Wilkens, joining us from Seattle. Eddie Johnson, the 2-time NBA
Oops, sorry.
All-Star, respected basketball analyst for the Phoenix Suns, and 6th Man of the Year multiple times over, or maybe just once in 1989. John Y. Brown III, former Kentucky Secretary of State, and one of the former owners of the ABA Kentucky
Why is it
Colonels,
doing that?
Lenny Wilkens and Eddie Johnson. I don't know if you know this, but this is Ellie Brown and John Y. Brown II's son. And then last but not least, Larry Drew II, former NBA player, son of a longtime NBA coach, Larry Drew, a UNC champion in 2009, and a great at UCLA as well. So we've got you 4 guys. Let's start with Lenny Wilkens, because Lenny, I know, Coach, you got something else you got to go to in Seattle tonight. Tell us about why your support of the Harris-Walz campaign, and Kamala Harris is the next president of the United States?
Well, for me, it's easy. You know, I've grown up, grew up in Brooklyn, Spike's hometown. Spike knows me, but anyway, you know, I've always felt, and I was always told that, you know, you become a better person because if you're able to give back to your community and make it a better place than the way you found it. I grew up in Brooklyn, New York, and I was a Jackie Robinson fan. The Dodgers was my team, and that's what I knew. I was at Ebbets Field quite a bit, got to know Jackie, and I used to always ask him, you know, because I saw what he went through as he was developing into a young man. And he used to say to me all the time, he said, "Hey, they can't get here. They can't get in his head." And I would look at him, you know, and I was amazed at how he carried himself and how he always wanted to make a difference. And so in my lifetime, I've been blessed. I've been fortunate. You know, I feel that young people, they're tomorrow's doctors, lawyers, athletes, politicians. They're our future. And we have to let them know that they can make a difference. They can make a big difference. And so I've devoted my career to young people. And, you know, one of the biggest things for me was the Odessa Brown Children's Clinic in Seattle. And it provided education and health care, because a lot of people didn't have health care at that time. And so when I see Kamala Harris, I see the big smile. She's not going to be deterred. She's not going to let you influence her in an area she doesn't want to be in or want to talk about. And I love that about her. I love the fact that she wants to make a difference. And our country is at that point where we need her. We need someone like her. She will, and along with her, will make a difference. It's time. I've been all over the world. I've been blessed. I've been fortunate. And there's no place like USA. And I tell you, when I saw that Democratic convention, it was unbelievable. It was unbelievable how it just reached out and snatched you and brought you in. So I'm for Kamala Harris. I think that it's not going to be easy, and we know that, but we need to get out and vote. And to see the NBA be a part of this, I think is tremendous. So, you know, I'm sorry I have to go, and because I'd like to stay here. And I see my man, Eddie Johnson, there. He looks great. Hey, buddy, it's always good to see you. But, and even Mark Cuban. You know, I did a fantasy camp many years ago, and that's when I first met Mark Cuban, you know. So it's really great to see you people here supporting this. I think it's worthwhile, and thanks for having me.
Thank you, Lenny.
Eddie, what do you got? Follow up on that, please.
You know, that's not right? I got to follow up on Lenny. That's like, he knows that this is my hero. I hated that I didn't get a chance to play for him. Cleveland signed me to an offer sheet. We didn't make it work, and I was ticked.
Yeah.
But it's always great to see him, as well as my man George up there. George was a little bit harder on me than Lenny would have been, though. But, you know, I was able to get through it. But look, I'm excited about this. I really am. And I just remind people all the time, 159 million people voted in 2020. And he got, Trump, that is, 74 million. That should scare anybody. That should scare us. Based on what we know, based on what we see, what we hear, it should scare us. It should be an alarm, because we got to convince people to open their eyes and actually see. And Kamala, what you see somebody that's presidential, you see a female, and how great is that at a time when females could not vote years ago. Now to have somebody that's the vice president that's already proved herself, went to law school, I mean, has been in the Senate, and yet today Donald Trump called her dumb. That's where we're living right now. So education, accomplishments, none of that matters to Donald Trump. She's dumb because it's about himself. And Kamala, it's about us. It's about the country. And that's why I think we're magnetized toward her, is that she understands what we need. And yet, he again said, well, she copied some of my policies. So what? Who cares? It's no perfection. Like, everybody makes mistakes, but you want to lead. And that's what she's doing. That's what she wants to do. And that's why we support her. And I heard everybody talk about the laugh. Why not laugh? Why not see the human side of everything? She's exposing herself to the world and how she's going to be. And yet Trump has exposed himself too. And yet we're slow in making decisions. That should scare us somewhat. And that's why I'm here, because I want to make sure people open their eyes and just see what's going to happen, because we do not want to go back.
We got to vote, and we got to talk to people. We got to let them know, hey, we can make a difference, and it's time.
John Y. Brown III.
John Y. Brown III.
How are you? Good to see you. Tell us what you got.
It's an honor to be here, and especially to be with Coach Wilkens. When I was a little boy, 9 or 10 years old in the early 70s, I would, of course, listen to the Kentucky Colonel games, but when they were over, I could, we only had 3 or 4 TV stations, so you couldn't watch games on TV, but I could sometimes get the Cleveland Cavaliers games on my radio, and they had a star guard named Lenny Wilkens, who was one of my heroes back then, and it's just an honor to get to be on this Zoom with you tonight, sir. And I'm 61, and I just so I can qualify to be on here, I may be the only person on the Zoom who's been on a basketball court in the last 2 hours. I just came from the Y playing pickup basketball, so I wanted to get that in. So I love the game, and there's a great quote from a French poet that all things start in the mystical and end in the political. And Brett recommended this book for me recently, How Basketball Can Save the World by David Hollander. And I thought I would start by, and he has a number of chapters, each with a principle, a value of basketball. And I just want to read some of these chapter headings to you and ask yourself, after I read each one, which team, Harris Waltz or Trump Vance, embody this value or values better? First principle of basketball is cooperation. Next, balance of the individual and the collective. A balance of force and skill. Making it global. Gender inclusive. No barrier to access. For the outsider, the other, and the masses. Urban and rural. Antidote to isolation and loneliness. And finally, sanctuary and transcendence. And for me anyway, I think of Harris Waltz for all those. And that's why I think this is a good idea to have Hoops for Harris. I think they align well with the values of basketball and why we love the game, and why we're hopeful too about our country. And to go from sort of the spiritual to the practical or the political, to me, we can talk a lot about policy. We can talk a lot about personalities, but as I said in the chat earlier, I think at the end of the day, it's who can we believe in? Who has the better dream? Who has the better vision for our future? We're not going to win this race by out insulting the other side. We've been doing that for over a decade now. It's tiresome. We're exhausted and it doesn't work. I think our job, as the old saying goes, bad people are elected by good people who don't vote. And to get the good people who might not vote to vote, I think we have to motivate them that our side has the better vision, the better idea for the future, the better dream for the future. And I think that's easy. And I think Kamala Harris really delivered at the Democratic convention. She showed us that she's ready. She embodied hope for the future. She brought the entire party together and told us she's going to represent everybody. That's the winning message. And I think that's what we really need to lean into as we go out and try to talk to our friends, neighbors, and family members and urge them that this is not a vote about party or your tribe. It's a vote for America or something else. And to me, it's just that simple.
Well said, John.
Thank you, John.
Larry Drew, thank you for joining us. I know you have some strong thoughts here, and we'd love to hear them.
Yeah, no, thanks for having me, Brett. Definitely an honor to be on the panel with Coach Wilkens, Coach Karl. I'm a lot younger, different generation than a lot of the people on the call, but I think it's definitely just of the utmost importance, that we get across this message about this upcoming election. Just growing up in Los Angeles, my father, he played 10 years in the NBA. He ended up with the Lakers from 89 to 91. I was born in 90. So from 89 to 97, I had a chance to, see up close a lot of the Lakers greats, Showtime era, the Great Western Forum. One of those greats being Kobe Bryant. I just remember that whole time frame very vividly. My dad being very excited about the opportunity at having the chance to acquire, a young Kobe. He was just a teenager at the time, but I think he saw a lot of the values, he wanted to instill in me at a young age about leadership, not following the crowd, just being able to stand alone and stand proud and stand on your morals and your ethics. And then so when Kobe came around, one of the things he used to talk about vividly was his work ethic before he even stepped on the court, before workouts was, he had a whole routine where he worked on his form shooting, where he worked on his balance, where he worked on his ball handling. Whereas most guys, if they would come out on the court, they would kind of just start jacking up shots. So he fell in love with Kobe right away. I actually had a chance to see Kobe firsthand in 2003. I was invited by Nike to be a part of a select group of amateur athletes out here in SoCal to be a part of an observation group. So we went out to this remote location, this gym at like 4 o'clock in the morning. Kobe comes out. He's already drenched in sweat. And I remember then noticing something about the way Kobe worked on his game, in that he was visualizing when nobody else was out there on the court. Nowadays you look at basketball players, they got trainers, they got, all the fancy gear and equipment, a lot of dancing going on. But Kobe, it was just him. It was his trainer, which was more or less like a glorified rebounder and, a ball in a hoop. And with that, in his imagination, he was able to kind of, from what I was able to pick up on, visualize the defense out there on the court, even when it was just him. So now we've all seen Kobe hit tough shots where we're like, man, how did he make that? How did it go in? My theory is that he was such a powerful visualizer, such a powerful storyteller, that by the time he was in the games, doesn't matter the defense, he was already, kind of, in that you know, that mental space, that Mamba mentality space where it's like, it's nobody else out there on the court. He's gone through so many repetitions meticulously, in with the intensity that he used to go about his preparation. So that again, by the time he got out onto the court, you know, I feel like he didn't see anybody out there. And so the message in that is just, you know, having a vision, being able to storytell is compatible to, you know, being able to inspire others and bringing people together for a call to action. Like I feel the Democratic ticket has been able to do, especially since the DNC. You know, I feel like there's been a lot of good momentum, a lot of excitement on our side, and definitely, again, just want to, you know, stress the importance, because another lesson that I did learn in my days playing, I spent time 2017 with Team USA. During that time, I was fortunate enough to have a conversation with Greg Popovich. So our head coach, Jeff Van Gundy, brought out Coach Pop to give us a little pep talk before one of our practices. And so one of the things that Pop talked about was instilling appropriate fear in all of his team. Basically the idea, the concept that you want to respect your opponent so much that you have an appropriate fear about them so that you prepare for the match, for the game accordingly. And so with that, you know, I look at Trump, I look, you know, I look at, you know, the MAGA ticket, and I feel like we definitely should have an appropriate fear, you know, echoing some of the same sentiments that have already been made, but just, you know, about some of the very real possibilities that can go down if, you know, Kamala and Coach Walz do not, you know, if they don't win this election. And so with that being said, you know, I just think it's up to us, especially as, you know, professional athletes, former professional athletes, or people who have, you know, worked in the profession of competition, to do our due diligence to make sure that we're going out there, we're reaching out to different people within our communities and making sure that we're uplifting everybody in the best way. That I feel like that we can do that is to encourage people to get out, to vote, to support Kamala Harris, Tim Walz, and to make sure that they get elected.
Alonzo, you're muted.
That's all right. I'll be taking over from now on, Alonzo.
No, it's okay. I went to unmute and they remuted me, and that was you. So stop it. I wanted to say thank you, gentlemen, for being here. Eddie, I love you on NBA radio. You may or may not hear stories about me having played for the '89 Clippers. Just back me up. That's all I'm asking. Just back me up on that. So my question to Eddie and Larry, two generations of ball players. Eddie, when you played, there was no social media, so people weren't listening to you guys all the time, and you would have had to step up to make a statement. You know, Larry, you're part of a generation that social media is all the time. People are listening to you all the time. Are you both aware of that, Eddie? What's it like now knowing that, you know, when you say something, it's going to come up on social media? And Larry, do you use it to reach out? And the other thing I want to ask you, Larry, what can the Democratic Party do? What can we old heads do to reach out to you young guys and young women that would actually inspire you? Because I hear from young people all the time, I don't care about politics.
Yeah, but you know, for me, social networking, which I use well now, I use it all the time. I don't use it as much as Karl does, though. He's pretty good on it. I'm trying to catch up with George. But, you know, if we had that back in the day, I'm scared to think how that would have happened. You just think about this now. I'll use Michael Jordan as an example. Michael Jordan should thank the world that he didn't have social networking back then. Right? Because then he would have seen both sides of the ledger. Now he got through it, so it's all positive with him. And that's good for him. Whereas the guys today, they don't. They suffer the consequences. Not only getting critique from people that they don't know, and I term a lot of these people as like water boys and couch potatoes. I don't want to get into that, but if you listen to my show, you know what I'm talking about. But, you know, a lot of people use that hiding in their basement, and they're making statements about you. but also we have guys that actually play the game now, ex-head coaches and everybody that's open and making statements. And with podcasts and with social networking, I feel sorry for the guys today. I think it helps their brand. I think it's putting money in their pocket without a doubt. But back in the day, we didn't have that. Matter of fact, we had a brick phone that was connected in our car. We couldn't even take it out. Okay, so we had no way of communicating to the outside world unless it was a media beat writer that was there following us, and that was it. And so it's a different animal right now. And young people like Larry, they understand the technology and they can really get out there. They have huge followings, and they have to use that really to the level that's going to help us get Kamala Harris in office, because that's going to be the difference as well too.
That's awesome.
Yeah,
I wanna say, this has been awesome. I just want to really point out, we just had Lenny Wilkens on. As he said, Jackie Robinson told me. Is there 5 people in the world left that Jackie Robinson told something to? That was amazing to me. All you guys come from different walks of life. You've seen, John, you've seen the Kentucky Colonels. Nobody's seen the Kentucky Colonels that I know. Eddie Johnson, I remember you as a shooter. You were the guy that showed people that you could live as a shooter for the rest of your life and you could play forever if you could shoot. Ray Allen took up your mantle. Shoot, Klay Thompson's gonna, all these guys. And you, Larry Drew, you don't remember this, but when I covered the Lakers for the New York Times, and they were always in the playoffs, you were the star of practice because everybody waited for you to shoot after the players were done. Do you remember this?
Of
Oh my
course.
God, Larry Drew the second in practice at like 10 years old was better than watching Shaq some days. But what I wanted
Trust me, I used to go on vacations with him. He used to threaten that he can beat me at 10 years old.
But what I wanted to get around to was, beyond all the basketball, you all stand for the right things. And I want to thank you for that. And it makes people like me want to smash the donate button. I hope everybody out there listening smashes the donate button right now, because what you're talking about, we can all relate with. I love, what was John Wooden's line? Basketball, the real basketball player gives himself to the good of the group. All of you have, certainly the vice president has, certainly, hopefully the next vice president has. And I'm honored to be on with all of you.
Any parting shots, John Y. Brown, Larry Drew, Eddie Johnson, before we keep moving forward?
No, I just think that social media is definitely a tool, as long as we continue to use it positively for the right purposes, it can be, used to influence, like we've been able to see, just in the weeks since the DNC. But with that, even conversations like the one we're having right now, via Zoom, this is all, great. I feel like, definitely want to continue this momentum. And I do believe the more that, young people see these types of conversations happening where we can interlink generations and have these open dialogues, the more, engagement I do believe that you'll see from the younger generation as well. So thank you.
I would just say, go out of your way to spend time, get to know and make friends with people who have different political viewpoints than you do, with no agenda, because the party that can remember how to do that is going to be the party that saves us.
Yeah, what I'll say is we're getting ready to witness something that in our lifetime we haven't had a chance to see. And that's a female that's going to be the president of the United States. That right there in itself is something that we can take away just seeing this, because, and I don't know how you all feel, but I believe women are the strongest creatures on the face of this earth, man. And what they have had to go through to battle and get through it. And we're going to see it on this debate. We're going to see a man up there with a microphone in front of him, and she is going to put him in his place, and he is going to lash out because he can't handle it. And what he's going to find out is women are much stronger than him. And I think that's going to be the key, man. So I just encourage everybody to look forward to what's going to happen here in November and be able to say that we saw the first female president in the United States. And that's going to be huge.
Thank you so much for saying that, Eddie. I fully agree with you. I think we're long overdue. And I think one of the beautiful things on the debate is he will not be able to intimidate her. His antics will be, she'll call him weird on TV and he'll lose his mind. It's none of those games are going to work. She's been there. Kamala Harris had to fight every step of her career. Every time she moved up another level, there'd be another fight she had to deal with, and nimrods like him she had to deal with. So she's ready for this. That debate's going to be it's going to be fun to watch.
A couple of things real quick before we transition here. Just want to call out one of our upcoming panels includes in fact, three great all-time fantastic women's basketball players. We've got Crystal Langhorne, Lindsey Harding, and Jackie McCormick. That's going to be coming up in a little bit here. And by the way, we're just about to pass $25,000 in money raised. So smash that button as we're layups, $10, slam dunks, $100, 250 buzzer beaters. John Y. Brown, I'm looking at you for a buzzer beater. I know you go over to Jump 360 with Peyton Steve all the time. Thank you guys so much for being part of this. Corey Jackson, Danny Ball. Yes, Danny Ball. That is Danny's last name. What do you got as far as trivia and our next set of giveaways?
Well, very fittingly, it's Lenny Wilkens related, and we've got a trivia question of who are the starting guards on the 1979 NBA champion Seattle Supersonics. Bring them back. Drop your answers in the chat. We've got
let's see that trivia question.
Different combination.
Bring back the Sonics, baby.
Yeah, let's bring them back.
So Gus Williams and Fred Brown. There's a few people that know this. John, you probably know this. Dale Ellis and Fred Brown. John Brisker. There's a reference to John Brisker earlier. And Dennis Johnson. Gus Williams and Dennis Johnson. Or James Silas and Louis Dampier. You know the answer on this.
That's easy.
I got this one.
Alonzo, you want to tell our friends what the answer is on this one? I think you know.
Oh man, I'm going to go with the majority and say Gus Williams and Fred Brown, but I'm not saying that with any expertise. So
I'll feel good about it.
It's you should feel good about it, but the truth of the matter is it's number 4, folks. It's Gus Williams and Dennis Johnson.
DJ
Fred Brown down.
Freddie came off the bench, right?
He was coming off the bench for Lenny's teams.
Yes, he did. Yeah,
that's a good question though, because Dennis was on that team and Gus as well. But Fred Brown is a legend, so I can see a lot of people getting that wrong.
Eddie, you could have held up 4 fingers and helped me on that one. That would be an assist. You could have had. I know you're a shooter, but you could have had an assist on that play.
Eddie Johnson, the James Silas, Louis Dampier connection. That was actually the backcourt that year of the Spurs.
Yes, sir.
You got some great ABA ties there.Louis was mostly with the Kentucky Colonels, but at the point he was playing for the Spurs. So there you go. And Corey, what do we got for giveaways?
No offense to the OGs, but this trivia is way too much for me. I'll take my chances with the spinners. And with this prize, we have a Coach Lenny Wilkens signed NBA basketball. We have 3 of them to give away. Let's get to spinning.
We did take the names off, by the way, that previously won. Rusty Ruff. Fantastic. You're going to email Corey at truthplusmedia.com. Let's do the next one. Dana Berry, your winner number 2. And number 3. CBT 470. Let's do one more. Let's try one more on that. I don't know what CBT 70 would be, Corey.
Cognitive behavioral therapy.
Yeah. Good point. Sonny Singer, there you go. Corey at truthplusmedia.com, signed Lenny Wilkens ball. And again, Lenny Wilkens today, this is going to change in October, I think is the only 3-time enshrined Hall of Famer in the Naismith Hall of Fame in Springfield, Massachusetts.
I think that is.
He is that iconic. And bring back the Sonics. All right. Next panel, folks, policymakers. This is going to be a great one. First off, we have Arne Duncan. If you don't know Arne Duncan, you need to know Arne Duncan, and you're going to get to know Arne Duncan here. He's the former U.S. Secretary of Education for President Barack Obama. He was a captain of the Harvard basketball team. I don't think they were NCAA champions or anything like that, but that means he's a really, really good basketball player. And he is a lifelong policymaker, and policymaker, particularly in education. So that's number one. Number two, we're joined by Phil Weiser, the Attorney General of Colorado, strong advocate for sports as a means of social integration and youth development. Phil, it's awesome to have you here. I know it is back to school night for your kids, so thank you for making this work tonight. We really appreciate it. And last but not least, Sue Altman, former basketball player at Columbia University, turned political activist and leader. She is running for Congress out of District NJ12, if I'm not mistaken, Sue. Certainly out of New Jersey. Tell us what is 7? Okay, NJ7. I think you're from NJ12 district, if I'm not mistaken. Nope. Okay. I'm going to stop guessing on the district that you're from, Sue, but we'll turn it over to you guys. Arne, Phil, Sue, please jump into this. Give us your thoughts on why Kamala, why Tim Walz, why you're so enthusiastic about this. And then Alonzo and Mike are going to facilitate some follow-up conversation for a few minutes.
I'm going to let the basketball players go first. So Arne and Sue, you go first. I was only play-by-play at Swarthmore College.
So you lead, I'll follow you.
Who, me? All right. Hello, everybody. This is Sue Altman. I'm here in New Jersey 7, which is the center part of the state of New Jersey. So towns like Summit, Westfield, Rahway, Linden. I'm from Hunterdon County, which is out on the western side. It runs coast to coast in Jersey. I was a basketball player. I mean, I suppose once a basketball player, always a basketball player. Until the pandemic, I was still playing a lot. And now I'm running for Congress. There's not a ton of time to get game in, but hopefully maybe if I get to DC, I'll see some of you down there. But I'm running in a district. It's one of the top swing districts in the country, but I am so excited for Harris Walz. This is such an exciting moment to be a candidate. I want everybody here to click on that donate button on your screen at hoopsforharris.org, because the Harris Walz campaign is going to glide into victory. They are harder working. They're just a better quality team. I know as basketball players, you know, we've all lost to teams that are worse, but that's not going to happen because we have the heart, we have the desire, the determination on the Democratic Party side. And Kamala Harris is just an icon, and it is an inspiration to be running on the ticket underneath her. Voting is so important. You can register at iwillvote.com, sign up to volunteer. Getting folks who are on the sidelines, who haven't been voters, getting them out here to vote will make all the difference, not just in my district, but everywhere in the country. Everybody's vote really, really does matter. But this district in NJ7 is super winnable, and basketball is having a moment. Women are having a moment. Competition is having a moment. And I think we are up for it. My opponent is like a total backbencher jellyfish, got no personality. I don't think he's played a sport in his entire life. It certainly doesn't look like it. He doesn't know how to compete. He doesn't want to do debates. He doesn't want to meet with the press. He doesn't do town halls. He's invisible. And I'm going to take it to him, and we are outworking him. We are outraising him. So if you want to know more about our campaign, go to SueAltman.com. But I am so excited to be in a community of basketball folks because we know how to compete and we know how to win. So thank you. Thanks for having me. This is so great.
That's awesome, Sue.
Push that donate button.
Make 2 different points and just sort of tell you about my day today. And I spent the last 8 years of my life devoted to trying to reduce gun violence in my home city of Chicago for a whole bunch of pretty painful reasons. And we came off a weekend. The long holiday weekends are always very tough for us, but this past weekend we worked extraordinarily hard. We saw about a 43% reduction in gun violence compared to the last 3 Labor Day weekends. Still a long way to go. We're proud of what we were able to do out in the streets. But to start the day today, one of my staff on the way to work was shot at 23 times. His car was hit 3 times. Thank God he was not hit. But he's formerly from the street life, like many of my team, has been out for a long time, working to save lives. And that's how we started the day. And then a little later in the day, we got the news from Georgia and another massacre, another mass shooting. And if you go back to the mass shooting in Iowa in January, and then former President Trump said, we just need to get over it. And so there are many issues folks go to the ballot box voting about: economy, jobs, healthcare, housing. We can go through all those issues. But right now, there's no more important issue to me than making sure our children are safe, making sure our families are safe, making sure our teachers don't have to live with this trauma, families don't have to live with this trauma, sending their children to school every day wondering if they're going to come home. And as a country, we are insane on this issue. We are crazy. There's no other nation on the planet that has this level of gun violence. And there's some pretty easy choices in this election. Where Vice President Harris is compared to former President Trump is night and day. He is owned by the NRA. His folks seem to take pride in taking resources from them. And we don't have to live with this scourge, this cancer of gun violence that's eating into the soul of our nation, all of our families, all of our communities. There's a chance to go to the voting booth and fundamentally change that. So I just want to say that. Secondly, I was incredibly proud to be part of President Obama's historic administration, to be a Secretary of Education for 7 years. I will take that to my grave. We were thrilled to win those elections and compete, as Sue talked about. But as historic as that was, as honored as I was to serve, I'm going to be very clear: this election is more important than either election we won. And had we lost one of those elections, it might have been crushing. It would have been crushing. But Senator McCain and Senator Romney, those are decent human beings. Those are people who believe in our democracy, and our democracy would have stood strong had we lost. If we lose this election, and I don't say this easily or lightly, that could be the end of our democracy. And Trump has no interest in this. As Spike Lee said earlier, he's talked about this would be the last election we have. You won't need to vote again. I take that very, very seriously. And so for so many different reasons, it is just critically important that we support Harris and Walz the next 60 days. There's nothing more important any of us can do, personally, professionally. This race is going to be very, very close. I love our momentum. I love the joy. I love all of that. I love the polls are going our way, but we all know polls don't vote. They don't win elections. Us, financially supporting, contributing to the campaign, us knocking on doors, us helping, get people to register and to vote. There's nothing more important we can do in these next 2 months, and just so appreciate you pulling this community together to try and to build that momentum and make sure that this is not our last election, and make sure that we have elections every 4 years for centuries to come. And that's what's at stake now. This is not policy. This is not Republican versus Democrat. This is democracy versus autocracy. And we have a very clear choice to make.
Thank you, Arne. That was so well said. I want to talk about 3 points. The first is I worked for President Obama too in his White House for Larry Summers on technology innovation. And I want to tell you, the team of people I worked with on issues that mattered: cybersecurity, privacy, how we better enable people access to broadband. We worked as a team together. And if you think about President Obama's team, there were no scandals, there was no drama. It was people who cared, working together on behalf of the American people. Think about what 4 years of President Trump looked like. Scandals like you couldn't believe. People who never heard of the emoluments clause now have heard of emoluments. It's when foreign governments are lining the pockets of public officials to make money. And unfortunately, the type of concerns that we saw where people left the Trump administration saying this man cannot be close to the Oval Office. You notice none of his cabinet was actually at the convention because he didn't build the team. Look what President Obama did in terms of building a team who cared, who worked together, who was thoughtful. That's what Kamala Harris is going to do. And I'll tell you why I know she's going to do that, because she was an attorney general in California, and she worked as a leader of the team of AGs. You heard about this at the convention, taking on the big banks, making sure that they were held accountable for the mortgage foreclosure mess. That leadership she showed made a difference. She also took on big tech, working on protecting kids and addressing what still is a real challenge, where these apps are harming young people. And then think about everything that's at stake in our future. And I think Arne said it well, how our democratic republic is going to function. And I will tell you, I love the statement made before. She said, I'm putting a Republican in my cabinet. I believe in ideas. I believe in working through issues together. We need a politics that brings people together to solve problems. People are struggling. Affordability is a real issue. Reproductive freedom is a real issue. Gun violence is a real issue. We're either going to have a president brings us together to solve problems, or someone who divides us trying to score political points. This has so much at stake. So as you think about an investment in your kid's future, don't sit this election out. I often say our democracy is not a spectator sport. It's a team sport. We need all of us on the fields.
I want to thank all of you. I appreciate your points. Sue, your enthusiasm is infectious and fantastic. Thank you for that. Arne, I have a question in regards to the spirit of what was brought up earlier in talking to people on the other side and talking to Republicans. When they talk about literally doing away with the Department of Education, what do you say to someone who thinks that's a good idea?
Well, Trump lies incessantly, constantly, but every once in a while he tells the truth. And he said something that I'll never forget. He said, I love the uneducated. And he meant that. And why does Trump love the uneducated? Because they're more easily manipulated. They don't think critically for themselves. They're not going to challenge. They're going to take wisdom, from on high. And he has no interest in a better educated America. He has no interest in more children having access to high quality early childhood education, or raising high school graduation rates, or trying to lead the world in college completion rates. And we know we live in a flat world, highly competitive, with a high wage, high skilled jobs, and go to the best educated workforce, wherever that is in the world. That should be in the United States of America. That should be in our communities. He does not want that, because he does not want people who can think for themselves. So I don't take that as an idle threat to eliminate the Department of Education. When he was the president, he did nothing to improve education opportunities. He did a lot to destroy them, to take them away. And let me just speak very specifically on the role of the federal government. When we had to try and integrate schools in Little Rock, Arkansas, the federal government had to come in. We had to try and provide access to high quality early childhood education. The federal government had to do that. We had to educate children with special needs. You had to pass IDA. The federal government had to do that. When you think about the millions and millions, hundreds of millions of dollars in Pell Grants and loans to make college more affordable, who does that? The federal government has to do that. And so there's an importance, not only the federal government's role, but there's a very important leadership role. To walk away from that will make us dumber. And the dumber we are, the sicker we are. That's honestly, that's the kind of populace he wants. The final thing I'll say is that I have to say that a great military is our best defense, but a great education system is our best offense as a nation. We would never have 50 navies or 50 armies. It's in our national imperative, our national interest to have a strong military. It is equally, if not more so, in our national interest to have a world-class education system. We need to get better, not go backwards.
For Phil, Sue, or Arne, I thought what you said earlier about the gun violence, Arne, that's the leading cause of death among children in our society now, which is just unheard of. My dad came from a Nevada boom town. He was given a .22 when he was about 6. And on his deathbed, he told me, he said, this NRA stuff is crazy. It's, he said, your Second Amendment right should not supersede my children's right not to be indiscriminately shot. How do we get gun sensible people that think we're going to take away all their guns just realize, no, we want a background check. We want to take away magazines. We want to take away semi-automatic weapons. No self-respecting hunter would ever shoot an animal with an AR-15. I guess what I'm getting at is how do we have conversations with the other side about gun safety as opposed to no guns?
Well, I think it's pretty simple. When these kids get killed in school, we don't know, if we don't care, are they Republicans or are they Democrats? It just doesn't matter. We all bleed the same. And so, parents in Georgia, parents in these states that have been governed by, frankly, Republican governors who do everything they can to make guns more accessible. If you saw the campaign ads for the congressman in that district that had the massacre today, it will make your stomach turn. It is horrific to watch. And so this is just about, having kids grow up, not living with fear every single day. No one's trying to take everyone's guns. But to your point, Mike, weapons of war belong on the battlefield. They don't belong in our communities. Having background checks is not that complicated. The truth is the vast majority of Americans, Democrats and Republicans, we poll test this all the time. It's literally 75, 80, 85% of all Americans agree with this. We just have politicians who are in the pocket of the NRA and Trump being right up there at the top of that, who don't let, who thwart the will of the American people, not of Democratic people, not of Republican parents, of Americans. And we have to finally say enough is enough and stop living with this insanity.
In Colorado, we passed a red flag law that we had to take both houses of the legislature because one Republican was willing to support what would have been the weakest red flag on the nation. He got pushed out of the Republican Party. He's now an independent. This should not be a partisan issue. Arnie's right. Overwhelming majorities support background checks, red flag laws, limits on magazine capacity, even assault weapon restrictions. This is sound gun safety. We don't need weapons of war in the hands of people who are dangerous. The problem is the NRA and the gun lobby wants more weapons being sold. People are making money on this. We have to own the narrative that we believe in preventing gun violence, smart measures, and win elections. And it is on the ballot this November, up and down the ballot. Electing Sue in New Jersey will help us be in a position to make sure we can do smart things at the federal level to prevent gun violence. Right now, if we have restrictions in Colorado, but not in Wyoming, people can go to Wyoming and buy guns really easily. And that becomes a real loophole problem for us. The way we end it is by leadership on the federal level.
It's so true. And here in New Jersey, I am biased, but our governor, Phil Murphy, with Attorney General Matt Plotkin, and they had a gun czar whose job it was to sort of figure out how to partner with law enforcement, how to partner across the aisle. But we were able to put into place here in New Jersey some of the strictest gun control measures that were common sense, that even had buy-in from law enforcement, some Republican buy-in. And that's been an incredible accomplishment by the Murphy administration. So I see New Jersey as hopefully being a beacon of hope for this type of cross-partisan cooperation to do some very common sense things that truly give law enforcement the tools they need to get these dangerous guns off of our streets and out of the hands of criminals. And I think when we frame it that way, when it's about keeping our communities safe, it's very hard to be against that. And we found some really interesting coalitions here in New Jersey, and the governor and the attorney general and gun czar Bill Costner have a lot of credit there to go around. So I think New Jersey could be a model for the country. And I'm hoping when I get to Washington that I can work with a lot of the folks already in Congress on this critical issue, because it's school shootings, it's street violence, it's domestic violence. It really cuts across all different quadrants of American life.
Do you think,
Sorry,
and I'm asking the panel,
last
do
question.
you think the fact that Coach Walls is a hunter and comes from a gun background, and as you said, Sue, just common sense gun use, hunters, people target shooting, whatever, do you think promoting that would help the Democratic Party and stop people's fear that they're coming to get your guns? I mean, I'm still waiting for Barack Obama to drop by my house and take my gun. They told me he was coming over. I still haven't seen him. So do you think?
Because I personally grew up in a rural area, and I went to high school with kids who, had a shotgun in the back of their truck, and after football practice headed out to go buck hunting in the fall. And so I do think that responsible gun owners are part of the coalition that we need. So I think Tim Walz being a hunter is a great thing for Democrats on this issue.
The other thing I'd say is Tim Walz shows that showing up matters. He won a seat because he showed up, he put in the work. We as Democrats need to show up everywhere. People need to know that we care about them. And when we say, here's what we're trying to do, make sure that dangerous people don't have firearms, people say that makes sense. And they'll say, hey, it's different for me down here in rural Colorado than it is in Denver. And I'll say, I get it. And so that matters too, that we show up the way Tim Walz does. People need to know that we care about them. And that's going to help us win elections and make good public policy.
Alonzo, it's a great point, because he's like a perfect example of this issue. You probably know he started out being A-rated by the NRA. That's where he started his career. They loved him. And it was actually after a mass shooting at a school where his daughter said, Dad, you got to do something different here. He's talked about this publicly. This is not insider baseball. And he flipped on that issue. He changed, gave all that NRA money to charity, and he's absolutely a responsible gun owner, but wants to keep all of our children safe. So he can relate to those who want to hunt and shoot. Again, people want to hunt deer or geese or ducks, that's all good. We just can't have it if they're hunting children. And he understands this in a pretty profound way. It's not where he started, but it's where he is today.
Guys, thank you so much. Sue, Phil, Arne, unbelievable stuff. iwillvote.com to register to vote. Press the donation button. Thank you very much. Again, Phil, thank you so much for joining us on Back to School Night. Arne, same to you. And Sue, same to you. We really appreciate you guys.
Thanks, guys.
Corey Jackson, it's going to be you and me. Danny Ball had to go do other things, apparently. I don't know what's more important than Harris. But anyway, alas, so it is. So we're going to do a little bit of trivia action. We're going to do an amazing giveaway in just a minute. And here's the trivia question we're going to throw up on the screen. Which former NBA player served as a U.S. Senator from New Jersey, to Sue Altman's home state? Which former NBA player served as a U.S. Senator from New Jersey? Now, you type 1, 2, or 3, or 4, or 5, I suppose, into the chat. That's going to populate your answer. We'll give this a second. This one feels pretty easy to me, George. I felt like I, gave a layup on this one. I put this one up there. I love this person. Like, I love this human being who we would like to have on Hoops for Harris at some point in time.
The older generation should get this.
Corey, what do you think? Is this a hard one for you? Like, do you look at this and go, I don't really have any idea. It might be Kevin Johnson, or maybe it's Rick Barry, or do you know?
Now, I know Kevin Johnson. We call him the mayor out here in California, and that's about all I know in terms of politics. So I couldn't tell you with this one, but looking from the trivia polls, it looks like Bill Bradley's the answer. I might have to roll with him.
It is definitely Bill Bradley. Phil Jackson has never been a politician. I don't think he's capable of being a politician. Dave DeBusschere was the ABA commissioner at one point in time, and Rick Barry hasn't been a politician. I don't think he's capable of being a politician either. It is Bill Bradley. We would be so thrilled some point in time. Arne Duncan is going to hopefully help us get Bill Bradley on for maybe another Hoops for Harris. We do another Hoops for Harris, but I'm feeling like maybe we should. And Corey, for the giveaway, you want to talk about this one a little bit real quick, or you want me to tee this up?
And I had to do my own research on this type of artwork, but we have Keegan Hall artwork. We have 4 winners winning some Keegan Hall artwork. If you don't know who Keegan Hall is, make sure you do your research, look him up. Pencil-based art, especially sports related. If you look him up, got some cool stuff on Instagram, got some cool stuff on the internet. So we got 4 winners for some Keegan Hall artwork.
KeeganHall.com.
It's good stuff.
KeeganHall.com. We love him. He's a Seattle guy. Crystal, we're going to need to figure out something for you with the storm. I'm sure he'd love to do something with Sue. And by the way, he told me tonight that he wants to connect up with Spike Lee to do a Mars Blackman drawing as well, Corey. And I guess Spike owns the IP around Mars Blackman, which was pretty good on his part in the 1980s for him to do that. So let's do the spinner. We've got 4 pieces of Keegan Hall artwork. And the first one, we'll go with the Michael Jordan piece. Let's start with this one. Who's getting a Michael Jordan piece of artwork from Keegan Hall? Craig Wood. You're going to email Corey@truthplusmedia.com, CORY@truthplusmedia.com. Incredible piece of artwork. I think it's from the 1986 All-Star Game Slam Dunk Contest. Mike or Alonzo, you're going to have to confirm that one for me, but I'm pretty sure it was 1986. Let's do the next spinner, and we'll do a Kobe Bryant. We've got 2 Kobe Bryant pieces. We're going to do a Kobe Bryant piece of artwork. Tim K. Hopefully Tim K is an answer. I think this was from chat. So we can take this answer. Tim K, you're going to email Corey @truthplusmedia.com. We have a Kobe Bryant piece of Keegan Hall artwork for you. Let's do another spin, and we'll do the third piece, which is another piece. I almost wonder what that sound is. That's so interesting. Adam, I don't know how to pronounce your last name, but we're going to give you a piece of Kobe Bryant artwork. And then last but not least, we've got a fourth piece, and I'm going to need to look up what this piece is because I'm totally blanking on it right now. But let's do one more spin of the wheel, and I'll figure this out in just a minute. Oh, I know what it is. AJ, you're winning a piece of artwork from Keegan Hall, and it's Giannis Antetokounmpo. This is a piece that Keegan did with Giannis, I think like 2 years ago. Went to Greece with them. It's part of an incredible campaign. Keegan is on Instagram. Keegan is on Twitter, or X, I guess, as Elon calls it, stupidly. And please email Corey@truthplusmedia.com, and you will get a piece of Giannis Antetokounmpo customized pencil-based artwork. Corey, let's keep this train going. I am so excited about this last panel. Women in leadership, unbelievable. Let's start out with our Dookie, Lindsey Harding, one of the great Duke basketball players of all. Come on, George. He just threw that literally like violently across the room, Mike.
Oh, rude. So rude.
So rude, Lindsey.
So rude.
You know where he went to school and you know why he does that, but he's so arrogant about his passion.
Oh, that's a projection. That's a projection.
We'll stop.
Maryland in the house. Maryland in the house. Crystal
Yes,
Langhorne.
We got Maryland in the house. We got Crystal Langhorne, a WNBA great, a Maryland Terrapin great. Great to see you, Crystal. And certainly last but not least, one of our favorite people on the planet, one of the greatest Native American players ever, men or women, Jackie McCormick is joining us. Jackie was a great college basketball player, and she's even a better person now, running a Native youth organization focused on kids through the sports modalities, especially basketball, called Rise Above up in Seattle. Lindsey, let's go with the Dookie first. We'd love your thoughts. Then we'll go to Crystal. Then we'll go with Jackie, and we'll do a little bit of round horn via Mike and Alonzo, and get you guys on with your evening. Lindsey, what's your thoughts? Welcome.
Well, I kind of want to address the first thing you asked when we first got on about is their excitement. And Kamala Harris is a woman. She's a woman of color. She has a multicultural background. She's an AKA Mysara. I am so excited. I never thought that I would see someone that I would say, you know, representation matters, right? That looks like me to be running for president. And it's Spike talked about it, about love versus hate. To me, this is a vote on morals and where you stand and your values and what you really stand for. And I think she's been clear on where she stands and what she stands for and how much she does care. She kind of wears it on her sleeve. You see it with her family. You see it even in the love with her husband. You see it all there. And it's in her laugh they want to talk about, but it's engaging, and it's just great to be a part of that. I'm just really sick and tired of the bullying. I'm tired of the fear. I'm tired of the scarcity mindset. There's enough for everybody. And I'm just tired of that. I'm tired of this level. Like, young men now are seeing this level of masculinity and what it means. Like, real men that I'm around, real men that I've been raised by, don't move that way, don't act that way. So it's really important for the future to see what a real man is about and how secure you can be. Another thing that, you know, going back to the female part of this, I'm a woman of color. It's hard to be Black in this country. It's even harder to be a woman. And to see the other side, I just want to call it the other side, using let's attack her for being a woman as a tactic. Sexism, just blatant sexism, is really disgusting. And I want people to really understand the outrage that people have for racism needs to be the same for sexism, because it is disgusting. Because what are you saying to the young girls and to the women, and frankly, to the whole country about women and what you think about us? So in the end, before you even go to any policies or money or whatever, it is just morally, where do you stand on any of this? And can you sleep at night? So like that's big for me. And also another part of it is being one of the only few women in what I do, coaching in the NBA, trying to be maybe the first woman to be a head coach in the NBA. I look at Vice President Kamala Harris, and I'm like, hey, if she can run a country, I can run a team. So she's inspiring to me, extremely inspiring. And the last thing I want to say this out here, she has worked and earned to be called Vice President Kamala Harris or Vice President Harris. People very easily just call her by her first name. They're not doing that with Donald Trump. They're not doing it with JD Vance. So respectfully, she has earned that title. Either call her by her full name or her last name and just like really give her that respect, because I think it kind of, in a way, downgrades what she's done. So I'm excited to be here. I'm excited to be on here. I want a future of hope. I want a future of love and happiness. I believe she brings that. And I just want everyone to get out there and vote. If you've never voted, go register. I want to challenge people to get new people registered, donate if you haven't donated. But this really, really is an exciting time for all of us to be here today.
Fuck yeah, hit the donate button. It was awesome.
That's awesome. Crystal, what you got?
First, I got to say hey to Lindsey because we played together in DC. So, hey, girl, how you doing? Good to see you.
Good to see you.
Hi, everyone. I'm truly honored to be on this call with all of you tonight. I want to tell you a little bit about me and how I got into my role with this storm, because it ties into voting, it ties into this work and why it's so important for me and also the storm. So I played in the WNBA for 13 years. I played 6 years in DC, and then my last 7 years were in Seattle. And so 2020 was my last season playing, and we all know what was going on with 2020. There was an awakening just with all of the social injustice going on. And so on the WNBA side, we were taking a stance. We were talking about Black Lives Matter, Say Her Name. We even helped flip a Senate seat in Georgia. But from an individual team perspective, we were also taking action. Our players were meeting with our ownership group about how we could have more impact, particularly in the Black community. So we created Force for Change, which is our social justice platform to create a more equitable society. So when I retired from the league, since I helped build the platform, the Storm asked me to rejoin the team on the front office side and lead this platform. And so now I've been leading that platform since 2020. And so with this platform, we focus on supporting BIPOC communities, supporting LGBTQ+ communities, the amplification of Black women, and then voting, education, and legislation. So I'm extremely excited to be on this call with you all today. Just for myself and from the storm, we have a passion to make sure that people are staying civically engaged. And we're continuing, especially this year, we're working with organizations from a nonpartisan lens. But for myself and our ownership group, we understand how important this call is for VP Kamala Harris. Arne said it earlier, this isn't Republicans versus Democrats. This is truly a fight for our democracy. And I know that sounds dramatic, but I feel like I'm a pretty even keel person. Like I don't get too high, I don't get too low. So like it is truly this election, and we're all talking about it, how vital it is that we get out there and vote. And so most people say sports teams, they should remain nonpartisan. You shouldn't be picking sides. And I think with this call, you can see that people are seeing that it's so much is at stake. You know, we have one leader who wants to unite us, who wants to bring people together. And then we have the other guy who's trying to belittle people. He wants to take us back. And I've never seen, and we've all played the game. It's like, when has going back or staying the same ever worked for any of us? It's never been something that is beneficial for us. So when I think like of what's been going on, like women's reproductive rights being attacked, you know, who thought they would be banning books? Who thought Roe versus Wade would be overturned? There's so many things that are currently happening And the only way forward to me is with VP Harris, with Coach Walls. That is the only way forward. And I think people, you know, I always tell people, like, I like to joke, I like to have a good time. And I feel like with social media, so many things we make jokes about things, but this is a extremely, like, our democracy, our country is at stake with who we want to be. So I just feel like this is, you know, you want to keep things light, but then you also have to really think about our future and what can happen in our country if we let the other side win with this. Because, you know, I hope we win. I truly hope we win. But even if we do, I just feel like this isn't it. I feel like when, you know, President Biden won and President Obama won, it was like, oh, okay, we can just relax. Like, all right, we're good now. But I feel like this is a continuous fight. And we have all this momentum right now, but because the momentum is going to die eventually, and it's going to be local elections, it's not going to be these national elections, but we have to make sure we keep fighting, because the other side is, when we relax, Donald Trump gets elected. When we relax, all of these things happen. Roe versus Wade is overturned. We lose Supreme Court justices. There's so many things when you're not constantly having this, and it's hard because sometimes you just want to you don't want to have that, you're thinking about it all the time, but you have to some extent. And I just feel like everyone who's on this call, you just have to let your voice be heard. And you always have to let your voice be heard, because it's so much at stake. And so that's really what I have to say today. But I just truly feel like this is an extremely important election, and we have a lot on the line.
Amazing. Miss Jackie McCormick, what you got? Hi.
Hey, Brett. Thank you. Thank you for having me. I'm so excited. Coach Karl, big supporter of ours. I love the swag. Shameless little plug for the nonprofit Rise Above. Mike, I love your intro. You know, you talked about Billy Mills, writing the book on Billy Mills. He's one of the greats out of Indian country. So for you to say that was very touching to start this call also. And Crystal and Lindsey, you guys are incredible. Lindsey, congratulations. And you will for sure be the first female coach of an NBA franchise. So let's just put that in the universe. I'm really excited. I think the one thing, you know, watching the Democratic National Convention, I think the one thing that I took away was there is hope, right? I think when we talk about our kids, we talk about the future. The one thing that Rise Above does is we work with Native kids, we work with all kids, and we go inside of communities. And the one thing that we try to leave behind with kids is that they have hope, that they can achieve greatness, that they can achieve dreams that they never thought of. But in order to achieve that, they have to be able to see things. They have to see people that represent them, that come from places where they come from, that look like them. So the one thing that I left with is really this country, me, the communities that we're serving, Harris and Waltz, they provide hope, and they provide a better future. And, you know, when we talk about the last election, we think about the last election, and some of the things that were said is, you know, we talk about Trump and his path and what he said he was going to do. He said he was going to overturn Roe v. Wade. He said he was going to do all these things, and he did it, and nobody believed it. He has this playbook of the 2025, right? So he has laid out, and we've all talked about it. It's love versus hate. It's empowering people. It's lifting people up, or it's you know, dragging people where he wants to go. So I'm really excited. I think, you know, Native American tribes are the most I don't want to say unrepresented, but nobody really understands the power of the native vote. There are so many tribes in Washington state. We have 29 tribes, right? So the power of the native vote, the power of us coming together as a community to really push this forward, I think is instrumental for us. I would really challenge each of us on this call to really rally around the people who we know want to make changes, who want to do good, encourage those people to vote, put it on your social media, how to register. You have people who've never registered to vote because they think their vote doesn't matter, right? Reaching out to those people. I'm really super excited. My niece is 18 years old, so how cool of a way for her to cast her first vote for a person of color, for a woman of color. It's really exciting. And to kind of keep things light, we joked, I was talking to Judge Jones here in Seattle, and we were talking about how, men have been president of the United States for over 200 years. We're like, let's give a female a shot. So I'm excited to have the Harris Walz campaign. At the end of the day, it's about hope. It's about kids. Coach Walz as a teacher. I just think it's really exciting, and it's really exciting for me to have so much hope and inspiration coming from so many people. And thank you all for putting this call on and having us join.
Thank you all for being here. I have to say, this summer has been quite a summer for women of color. You've been killing it, and I think that is fantastic. And I want to touch on a couple of things. Lindsey, when you talked about the sexism, which is ridiculous, I will say that I don't understand Republican women who allow it, who stand for it. Can you help me from a woman's perspective how that mindset works? And Crystal, I love what you said about the Supreme Court, because I think that was something that was lost in the election when Hillary was running. People didn't pay attention to that fact, and it worked out horribly. So how do we keep this momentum going? Because there's a momentum now, and how do we let people know that it does affect you, and you do need to vote? Like you said, Jackie, it's people say, oh, it's just politics. Like, it absolutely affects your life. I'd love to get your thoughts on those topics.
Yeah, I actually had a friend who said that. She was like, it doesn't matter who wins, it's politics as usual. And I'm like, what about Roe v. Wade? Like, that's just something that happened right in your face. So just making sure you emphasize these current issues that are happening, like, so people understand, like, these elections have consequences.
And I would just say, for me, I can't really tell you what those women are thinking with that. They're unempowered. They might have always been raised and grown a certain way. Maybe they follow their men. Maybe they follow their families. I don't know. But I don't know what it is where it's kind of putting you in a box and taking your rights away and continuing to vote for that. It doesn't make sense to me. All I can do is express my feelings, show a different way of possibly thinking, a different way of life. I would call it probably a little more freedom, and you either take it or you don't. But I really can't give an answer for that.
Thank you.
I'm floored by the conversation on such a high level in so many ways. I love that the part of me about Vice President Kamala Harris that I love is she's gone out there and said, this is not about my gender, this is not about my race. And yet, like you said, there is something about seeing somebody that looks like you that means something. I go back to an old bit that Alonzo Bowden, my friend, did when he said that Mitt Romney went to the NAACP one day and said, I'm the best candidate for the African American. And he said this to Black people. And I'm wondering, like, when I thought about that, Alonzo did that, I think Trump is the same guy. He's telling people that he goes to the NABJ, the National Association of Black Journalists, and says he's done more for Black people than anybody. I don't know if I were Black, it would offend me. I'm white and it bugs me. I'm wondering how you feel.
Well, can I just jump in really quick, Mike, and say, when they say things like that, it's really hard to be a comedian because I have to come up with something funnier. I have to come up with something more ridiculous than that.
I just say, like, for me, it's like, everyone talks about the American dream, right? You can be here, you could be anything. And the moment a woman tries to be something, oh, that's just too much. Like, we really didn't mean it. Do you mean it or do you not mean it? Because if you mean it, she is the American dream. She comes from a background. She looks like a lot of people in this country. We're a melting pot here. And she is living the American dream, going for it. And all of a sudden, it's like, well, we really didn't mean it. Not for you, right? Is the American dream really not for you? And, you know, we're calling them on it. So, no, I think this is great.
I feel, and I want to get your feelings on this, that they resent it even more. Like when they give that hype about the American dream, and now here's a woman of color who did it, who came from middle class, went to school, worked her way up. She is now the vice president of the United States and hopefully will be president of the United States. And just like you said, they're like, no, we didn't mean you. That doesn't, it's like they're offended because they can't tell their story anymore because she did it. Do you feel that?
Yeah, and I feel like because they have so many stereotypes, she's going against everything that they believe, and they don't like it. They have such a narrow view of who is the American dream, who should be successful, who has certain jobs. And when you don't fit into that and you break barriers, they're upset because they want you to stay in your place.
It's not meant for you. Sometimes they say it, but it's not meant for you. And that's how it feels at times when we try to break through certain barriers. We can say what we want, but like it really wasn't for you. But then when you do it, it's they weren't ready for it.
Jackie, for you, a good friend of mine and Lindsey's for that matter, Mitch Thompson, is part of one of the only bilingual basketball camps in the world, and includes the Yakima and their ability to like teach their children language and culture of the Native people. I looked at the numbers in the battleground states. There are 300,000 people in Arizona who say they identify as Native American or indigenous. I look at people in Wisconsin and Michigan. There are numbers that can change the election. Do you feel like I don't know, maybe the Democratic Party, or whether it's Coach Walz or Vice President Harris, they need to get out to Indian country a little bit and make it known that they care about the Native vote?
Absolutely. I mean, I think you hit it spot on, right? The power of the native vote can absolutely have influences, especially in those places like you mentioned in Arizona. It is really exciting, but I do think that there needs to be more outreach, but also more accountability on ourselves, right? Within the tribe, within our tribal governments, we're all our own sovereign nations. So what is each of our tribal governments doing to encourage voting, to get out the vote, to make it easier, to make it more accessible? I think the byproduct of this campaign, and if VP Harris goes on to win, or when she goes on to win, there is a positive ripple effect that's going to happen that not a lot of people are aware of, and that is that this country is going to see the very first Native American woman governor, and that is really exciting. So when VP Harris wins, it's going to be an incredible moment also for Indian country to have a Native American woman represented as the governor the first time ever, and that is really exciting. So this election, when they say elections have consequences, that can be both good and bad, and in this case there is a lot of good that's going to happen when this election is successful.
And that, Jackie, that's Governor Peggy Flanagan, is that right?
Yes.
Any parting thoughts from you ladies? This was an incredible discussion, educationally and passionately. Jackie, Crystal, Lindsey, anything else you want to wrap with before we head towards the conclusion and the finish line of this game?
I think mine is just, continue to encourage people to get out and vote. Our circles, we reach far and wide, especially with the basketball community, the sports community, right? The importance, showing that we vote, and making it easier and making it more accessible, and just being proud of taking advantage of that. Michelle Obama in her speech talked about how we can't forget the sacrifices that our elders make to get here, right? We've only been citizens of the United States for 100 years. So the fact that you're not voting as a Native American is wild to me. So understanding the sacrifices that were made, and really being proud to cast that vote, I think that's my message to people is encouraging others and voting ourselves and just being proud of that.
I say for me, it's the same thing. Vote. Every single vote matters. It matters. Like you matter. You have to do it. You have to take the time and do it. And also, we talk about donating. Every single dollar matters. Everything matters in this. We talk about how this could be a close race here. So don't sit it out. Don't sit it out.
And I agree with what both of them said. It's not just the national elections, but it's also the local. Just always make sure your voice is being heard, because that's how change happens.
Thank you so much, ladies. Super awesome
Great
way to
job.
end this.
Thank you.
George has been saying for about 3 years now, this is the decade of the woman. It was the summer of the woman, as Mike, you said earlier, and I think you might have been prophetic on that. You might have nailed that one. It's getting close to 10 o'clock Eastern time, and Chris, I have a feeling you're in Eastern time zone. So thank you again, all. Corey, let's do this last transition and give away some goodness as well. We're going to stick with a female-oriented question. You're going to know this, George, and probably most will as well. Here's the trivia question, last one. Who was the first WNBA player to coach an NBA team? It's a little bit of a tricky question. There's a little bit of a tricky question to this.
Who was the first
I've been 1, 2, 3, 4, or 5.
I don't know.
Oh, I know what it is.
Corey, you don't know?
No, I know.
Oh,
I know.
okay. This was fairly recent. This happened fairly recently.
Hey, no hints. Stop giving them hints. Let's say,
I don't really feel like that was a hit, but okay.
Might have been.
We'll give it one more second. Nancy Lieberman, Cheryl Miller, Becky Hammond, Sue Bird, or Cheryl Swoops. And again, it's which former NBA player, who was the first WNBA player to coach an NBA team? Alonzo, you know this one, right?
I don't. I actually don't.
Becky Hammond.
I have an idea, but I'm not guessing.
Becky Hammond, number 3. Becky coached at one point in time. I don't remember the exact circumstance, but she coached the San Antonio Spurs for maybe a game or a couple of games. I think Pop had some.
She coached in the summer league, won a game, and then Pop got thrown out of the game, and I think she coached.
Yeah, I think that's. Thank you. I think that's exactly right. We're going to see this a lot more. And again, to reiterate, our friend Lindsey Harding is going to be working with our really good friend named McMillan and Scotty Brooks and another Dookie, JJ Redick on the Lakers staff. It's gonna be a very interesting year for you all. Very, very interesting year. We'll leave it there. And last but not least, we have this giveaway courtesy of our friends at Chuck Sports. It is a Knicks jersey, and I'm very confident based on how tonight went that it is going to be signed by our friend Spike Lee. So let's do the spinner one last time for a Knicks jersey. It's going to be a Jalen Brunson jersey. Mike, I can tell you it is going to be a Jalen Brunson jersey.
Yeah.
I'm pretty sure Spike will sign it.
Are you guys hearing this music?
No, in my head I am. Steve Mendel. Whoa. He seems like he would be a Knicks fan. He seems like he'd be from Manhattan or something. Steve Mendel won a Knicks jersey. We hope we'll get it signed by Spike Lee again from our friends at Chuck Sports. Thank you guys for that donation, David. Really appreciate that. And email Corey, Cory, at truthplusmedia.com. Your prize. Okay.
I would probably say amazing. Probably was the national Democratic National Convention, which I thought was the perfect storm. But my thoughts are very much in tone with everybody. The stories are fantastic. My thing is the women were great, and of course I'm excited about having a woman president. And I think most people deep down inside know that should happen. And the contest deep down inside, I think people know that Kamala Harris is a better candidate. And the truth is, we got to get out and vote. I mean, the one quote that really stood out to me was Bad leadership is won by good people not voting. And that means the guys that don't vote are going to help Donald Trump, in my opinion. So no matter what, Republican, Democrat, Independent, get out and vote, and everybody get to work. Do whatever you can. Make phone calls, shake hands, go to the polling booth, but get the vote out, and let's get the first woman in office.
This is why this guy's a Hall of Famer right here. This is his Hall of Fame ring. He's giving it to me tonight for an amazing job. Thank you for that, George.
Wait, he's giving it to you?
Yeah, it's like a like from a Cracker Jack box. Like, I'm gonna take this ring tonight. I'm gonna wear it.
Thing.
No, it's a real thing. I'm not really gonna take it. I'm not gonna do that. But we're gonna get to thank yous in a second. I want to look at two things before we wrap. Can we pull up Lux, the map, to see who all participated in, I think it's going to be the first Hoops for Harris. It might not be the last. I don't think it's going to be last. Who participated in Hoops for Harris tonight? Or should we do the poll first? Either one. We've got a poll, and I want to look at the map. I want to see who joined us and where they joined us from. Pull it up. Can we zoom in on, so what do we, oh, that's pretty good. And I think there's a lot of spots there, and I think you can see, even as you scroll around, you can see there's Long Island, Ridgefield, Connecticut. That's pretty diverse. I really hope Michigan, Wisconsin, these are swing states. These are going to be really important states. Pennsylvania.
Gotta get that one.
We got to get that one.
Pennsylvania and North Carolina.
That's Georgia.
Okay. We got to win both of them.
All right. Well, we've got some influencers that we can hopefully bring to bear in all of those states. And then lastly, let's pull up the poll that hopefully will encapsulate some of the enthusiasm that we found from, or that we captured from this conversation. Are you more excited? Are you pumped? Or should we go forward? Those are all pretty good answers. I don't think there's really a wrong answer, but how did this call make you feel about voting for Harris Walz? 1, 2, or 3. There's no wrong answer there. And I heard, by the way, the chat was all very civil. The chat was civil. It was respectful. It was.
Well, to be honest with you, I have a lot of Republican people that are searching for what is going on because they don't want to vote for Trump. And they're not totally convinced that that the Democratic vote is the best way. But I think today the senator from Wyoming came out and said, if we got to vote for Kamala Harris, because a non-vote is really a vote for Donald Trump.
iwillvote.com. That's the registration page. If you're not registered, or if you're not sure you're registered, please make another donation via Hoops for Harris or wherever it may be. We passed $25,000 in donations. We passed 7,500 viewers during the course of this little series thing we did, episode thing we did. And I just want to end this by saying, I want you to have the last word, Tar Heel, but I want to say thank you to everyone that made this happen. Alonzo, thank you. Mike Weiss, thank you so much for bringing this all together. Thank you for the White Dudes for Harris who made this possible, brought the platform together. We're super collaborative. Thank you to the guys and gals at ARC. Thank you to Corey. Thank you to Danny. Thank you to Jay. Thank you to Alec. Thank you to Sam. Thank you to all the speakers. Stream Alive, incredible stuff. Really look forward to working with you again. Check out streamalive.com if you're interested in bringing interaction like this to future platforms that you're a part of, whether they're webinars or whatever for your teams or for your businesses or whatever. KeeganHall.com gave some great artwork. We got a Knicks jersey. Spike Lee was awesome. What's your last thought?
I think my last thought's going to go back to Dean Smith. When Dean Smith got angry, he never swore, but the one thing he would say very loudly is, do the right thing. You know what the right thing is. Do the right thing. I think I should leave with that. If you think about it, I think our lady will win. And do the right thing is go out and vote and speak your voice.
You guys have a great night. Get ready for the next
Thank
60
you.
days. Thank you, everyone. We might have to do this again.